Hey all, my name is Liz Wright, and I am a professor of psychology at Northwest Vista College in San Antonio, Texas. I do these videos for my child psychology class, and this week's topic, or this unit's topic, is going to be cognitive development in our 0 to 2s. So if you're not in my class, then you are obviously more than welcome to watch and see what we're talking about and see if maybe this might be something that interested you, that you come take our class online from Northwest Vista as well. So in the last unit, we talked about physical development. We talked about the rolling and crawling and scooting and all that fun stuff. In this unit, we're talking about cognitive development, so thought development, memory development, things like that. So big brain stuff, right? The first part of this unit focuses a lot on Piaget's work. And Piaget created these ideas of very specific time periods where the children he observed were learning very specific behaviors. And I know a lot of times students look at these terms, tertiary circular reactions, like what was he talking about? I think in terms of application, in terms of practice, in terms of understanding children, it's more important for us to understand what Piaget was saying these kids are learning to do, as opposed to hyper-focusing on the terminology and the vocabulary that he called them. So first movement is typically due to reflexes. I used to jokingly call it the baby dance. So it's kind of where like baby's just like moving around and the arms are going and the legs are going. And eventually what will happen is that baby will, hit something. So maybe they're, laying under a little umbrella toy that has things hanging down, something like that. And their hand hits something. And you can almost see this like look of like shock on their face, like, what's going on, right? And then in the next stage of development, they are doing the baby dance, their reflexes are going, they're moving around, and they, hit the same thing again. And it's almost like they start to make the connection between when I move my hand this way and when I touch this thing, it moves or it makes noise or something like that. And then in the third part, they are actually capable of making the connection between I can do the thing, I can make it work, I can, when I grab mommy's earring and I pull, I can make her scream. Mm. So before, they were just grabbing and holding on and not realizing what they were doing, but then they came to associate that, if I wanted to make mom make noise, then this is how I can do it, or I can do the hair or something like that. And then eventually they start to develop the ability to recognize that with movement, through controlling their movement, they can then produce outcomes. So they can push over a mirror that was on the floor. They make like these little plasticky baby mirrors so that the baby can see themselves. It's a sensory thing. It's pretty cool. Because they don't obviously recognize themselves in the mirror. And they're like, what is that thing in the mirror? I'm like, that's you. That's you. So we do have these cognitive development stages. As we see that the cognition is developing, we will also see that their attempts towards language are developing. Now, the first way that children are able to communicate is with facial expressions. Usually you're not going to get your first, what we call social smile, which is like a smile on purpose, until about 2 months old. Up until that point, really, it's like gas. I've talked to people that are like, oh, well, my baby smiled at 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, in their sleep, that's not on purpose. But you will see it, and you will see these big gummy smiles while they're sleeping. It's super cute. But yeah, it's not on purpose. They're not smiling at you. Sorry. But eventually they will smile when they see your face, or smile when they see the dog, or smile when they, encounter something that they know. Um, so we're going to start cooing. So we'll hear like, ooh, ah, they're trying out this noise thing. Um, One thing also you will start to recognize as an adult that interacts with the same children often is that you will recognize the types of cries. You'll be able to go like, that's, I'm tired. That's, I'm hungry. That's, I need my diaper changed. Just by listening to how they're crying, which is pretty interesting. Um, so yeah, we will start to coo, and then we'll start to babble, which is just they're using sounds, and they're making sounds, but the sounds aren't making any sense. So it's like haba haba, and you're like, yes, totally. And so a lot of people are like, how do I respond to that? Like, yeah, this kid makes no sense whatsoever. And my response to that question is you respond to it as if you are having a conversation with this person. And as we said, as soon as they start to attempt language, we need to stop with the baby talk, and we need to talk to them like they are a human person. So not like this, unless you want your kid to sound like Minnie or Mickey Mouse. So a lot of times what I would do is just, my kids were babbling and they were like, I'm like, that's right. I hadn't thought of that before. What else do you think? And then they would respond in another way. And, just kind of making this stuff up as you're interacting with them. It demonstrates a couple things for them as they're, getting older, that as when we have a conversation, it's, one, then one, then one. So the back and forth nature of having a conversation. And then also it allows them to hear you using different words, using different intonations. So tell me more about that, and what you will start to realize is that if this is your child or you interact with this child often, they will start to use your terminology. They will start to use your intonation. They will start to use your ways that you say things. So one of the fillers that I use in my language is the word so a lot. And I realize that my children both do that as well. It's kind of their mental pause word. So, and I'm just like, oh, that's me. I'm sorry. So, and if you talk to parents, a lot of times they will tell you that, yeah, my child picked up my way of saying certain words, or when I use them, or things like that. So we are cooing, we're babbling, and then we will see that typically first words are going to occur around a year old. And it's typically something that these guys have heard often. My oldest, his first word was dog. And typically they're one syllable, very easily pronounced words. And then my youngest, his was ball. Those are both pretty typical in terms of first words. There's another time period of language that I don't often see in textbooks, but I joke about. I call it the screamy stage. And this is when children have not learned to regulate their voices. And so they're babbling, they're raising their voice, they're lowering their voice, they're raising their voice, they're lowering their voice, because they can't get it to go to a consistent level of where they want it to be yet. And so it's the screamy stage. So sometimes when I'm excited, or I know that food's coming or something, then there will be like, lots of screamies going on. Um, I have one video, if I can find it, I'll share it with y'all, of Silas, and he was in one of those like assisted seats that has like all the play stuff around it, and he was like banging his hands on all of the different play stuff that was making all these different noises, and he was very excited and he was trying to get my attention, and I was paying attention to him, but I wasn't like interacting with him. I think I was actually doing homework at the time. Um, and so I just, out of the corner of my eye, I see him and his face is like, I'm going to do it. And the arms are going and the legs are going and the scream is going. And I was just like, screamy, screamy time. Okay, gotcha. So these kids eventually will learn to put two words together. We've got, two-word sentences, me do, see dog, things like that. And it's just really interesting to now have a better understanding of, what they're thinking about, what they're interested in, what they want, things like that. We also, in this unit, are going to be talking about assessing cognitive development. And there will be some interesting information about assessing cognitive development and language in this chapter as well. So to me, those are kind of the most important points of this chapter and what this chapter is about. If you have questions about this chapter, let me know in the comments or send me a message on Canvas, and I will answer them as soon as I can. Thanks.